That toy life. To catch these ghosts, you need the real Ghostbusters.
Nice landing, Han Solo.
Spaceships and Luke Skywalker sold separately. Batteries not included.
That toy life.
Hey, Ray. It's just us two tonight. Apparently. Two-thirds of the Toy Life crew. No, Austin will be here with us momentarily. He got stuck doing some generous work for his fans. And he'll be back shortly, still eating supper, so he'll be in just a few. But it's that bi-monthly, bi-weekly?
Supposedly bi-weekly.
Yeah, supposedly bi-weekly show where we talk about toys and pop culture. But sometimes we don't make it bi-weekly because life happens. But this time we did. Yay!
We're here.
So tonight's episode, we're going to talk about The Flash. We're going to review The Flash, and we're going to talk about the Superman Legacy casting. But we kind of want to wait on Austin to do that. So before we begin with all that, Ray and I are going to talk about the first episode of Secret Invasion on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
So, thoughts? Just on what do you think? What do you think about the whole first episode?
I liked it. I'll say one thing I had a particular distaste for. It didn't have anything to do with the show itself, actually. Like, the story of the show. It had to do with the credit sequence. I don't know if you liked it. I didn't like it. And then afterwards, I found out about the whole AI thing, and I was like, "Oh, that's why I didn't like it." I thought it was really cheap looking.
Yeah, I mean, it did kind of look a little like, but I get what they were going for.
I get it, but also the way when I read about their defense of it, it kind of came off to me like corporate speak, like, we've been found out. We need to make this sound like this was our plan the entire time. You just didn't get it.
You know, that AI is going to be a big thing in the future. I mean, well, it already is now. And I don't know which side to really stand on, because
I feel like it needs to be regulated in a way in terms of, I mean, there's a lot of ways, because it can bring companies to, I guess, diminish the human element in any industry. And I feel like that can be a slippery slope, because there is something, if you ever read any AI stories, anything that's made with prompts, there's always, even the ones that are barely coherent, there's something missing in there. And there is that human element, I think, because most of what AI storytelling is them perusing information they already have. They look over, tons of other stories they can find in their database. It's nothing, they're not coming up with them themselves. They're looking at it, analyzing algorithms, and putting together something that maximizes the story. But there's a human element that needs to be there, like a soul, because there's plot twists you would think of that the machine just won't think of just by looking historically at things. Like, the third act twist needs to happen here, and the third, who would benefit the most, or who would be the most shocking to have happen. It does things by what logically it thinks would be the most appealing, instead of just what a writer would think would serve the story best.
But so from the artist standpoint, though, like, I'm looking at it like for comics, when you have these writers who say, "Oh, I have this great idea for a story," and they can't hook up with a particular artist, any artist, right?
Oh, so you're talking about like a visual art?
Yeah.
Okay.
That and they want a certain artist. Maybe they can't afford that artist, or maybe they just can't find an artist to work with them. Well, this gives them the ability to create that art and lets them tell their story.
Yeah, I'll say it in a way it can. I think it's still visual art, because if you ever go and do you know the site DeviantArt?
Yeah,
the website.
Yeah.
So if you go there has been a kind of a problem with it lately. It's been like an onslaught of AI art. You'll see people make, and you can see it all has a sameness to it, and it all has a roughness to it. And there's little things you can always notice, because a lot of times people will prompt the art to do certain things that make it a little harder to tell that it's AI art. Which the biggest thing still currently, if you ever want to tell if something is AI art, is you look for these. If they have fingers,
Oh yeah, if they have like,
because the fingers have not been,
Yeah.
been perfected in a way yet. So
Yeah.
you'll see these weird little things where they'll have like multiple fingers or they'll swirl together somehow.
yeah, it's crazy.
Weird little poses. So there's that. But I do see the benefit in what you're saying, because one thing they could use it for is a way to get some kind of visual concept that they could use to pitch to somebody to kind of give a visual representation of what they are going for. So that in essence is a cool idea, like as a way to help get your idea seen by others. And then I could see that as a good bridge to getting professional people to actually want to help get that visual medium created.
So aside from the AI issue with the intro of the show,
yeah.
I mean, what did you feel about the Secret
story.
Invasion, the first episode?
Yeah,
Because
first episode, because I
you hadn't
watched the
seen
second.
Yeah.
I liked it. Kudos to Sam Jackson, but I feel he was a little. He felt like he was a little held back a little bit because I think it's going to be part of the storyline, because it seems like he's got. I feel like that whole snap, when he got snapped, blipped.
Mm-hmm.
Blipped was the return, but anyways, it seems like he has PTSD from that experience. Did you ever notice that yet, Ashley?
Yeah,
Or
now
does
that you're saying that, I get that he feels that,
because he does
I
have that. Because there is like that one flash in the episode when I think he's on the walk or something, but it's almost like he starts to have a panic attack or something. I think it's probably before his spy friend comes and gets him.
Yeah.
You see he has that flashback of right before he got snapped, dusted.
Yeah,
and it seems like that really messed him up. And if you look at it from what sort of, I'd like to see where he returned. If he returned in the exact same space he disappeared from, because if you think back to the Hawkeye show, we saw exactly what it looked like from the perspective of someone who was dusted, of what it was like to be dusted and then come back, because there was like just a instant sensation, and you see basically reality reshape around you.
Yeah.
So it seemed like that affected him. But the highlight to me was Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
He was fantastic. Emilia Clarke, I liked what I saw from her. They didn't give her too much to do. I'm wondering what her deal is with her arc, because it looked like it was going one way, then went another. And now with how the first episode ended, I'm wondering like, well, was it that way the whole time? That's what I'm kind of.
There's a lot of question marks, and it gets even worse. So have you seen the first episode, Austin?
I haven't yet. We're still working through the Marvel series. We're at Age of Ultron right now.
But
it's on but it's on the docket. Like I've been like, it's one of those things like, all right, cool, I got something else at the end of the road to look forward to.
So
I do want to see it.
So we won't bring up the big spoiler at the end.
Yeah, we won't talk about too much of it, because we got enough stuff.
We can jump on
and stuff. Yeah. But I will say, it's a slow start.
Yeah,
but once you get through it, I think the second episode gives you a little bit more of a payoff, and I think it's going to build. I like Nick Fury as a character, especially Sam Jackson as Nick Fury.
Yeah,
so I like Sam Jackson any way I can get him. So
so I'm enjoying the show. I don't get why people are like, oh god, this is harder to get through than Andor. Well, I like Andor too, so
and I think that's the thing with just that genre, because it seems like, I guess Secret Invasion is kind of leaning toward that same style genre of storytelling that Andor did, which is kind of political spy thriller type thing.
Yeah. And I don't think they did themselves justice by calling it Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
Because the comic book geeks are be like, this ain't nothing like Secret Invasion.
Yeah. I think, who was it? Someone involved in it said, I know the director said this, but someone that was either cast in it or hired at some point, they said that the director told them, don't read the comic, because the show's not going to really, the story's not going to have anything really to do with the events of the comic. So it's, and that does seem like a thing that's plagued Marvel for a while with the MCU is that they take the use of a story. They take a storyline title and they slap it onto they take a known storyline title and they slap it onto a movie that doesn't really glean into that at all, other than like maybe one concept in it. Like Civil War was not a civil war at all. It was a skirmish of ideologies. That was it. There was no, in the comics that was prolonged, conflicts that lasted for, it lasted for what? I think the comic run itself lasted for what, about 2 years?
It was a while. Yeah. The way they made it long form storytelling.
Yeah. It made it seem like it was supposed to be like a longer, like a long form. I would see the Civil War being more of a mini series, and it involves all the heroes, and there's a lot, and just a lot of layers. Yeah, Captain America Civil War was like a disagreement. Like just an afternoon disagreement.
Age of Ultron was more like the 2-3 days of Ultron causing some trouble. And
one thing we've been noticing going back through the movies, I won't stay on this long, but it's just some of the digital work on especially Captain America. We were watching Age of Ultron, and he looks like a cadaver. It's just like pink, rosy skin, but just digitally flat, no detail. It's just, and his hair's beautiful. Talking about Steve Rogers, yeah. It's like he stands out like a sore thumb to everybody else. I mean, he looks like just like a beautiful baby.
I wonder what they did to him. I don't remember.
It just seems like probably a mixture of makeup, and then everybody. It looked like, especially in Age of Ultron, it looks like there's a lot of digital, kind of like digital workup of all their faces. Whenever you see a lot of close-ups of like Tony or oh god, I kept wanting to say Wanda, but not Wanda. Black Widow, Scarlet, yeah. But I mean, you see them, and you'll see like just weird CG stuff. I don't know. It was probably just little touch-ups they do.
I need to go back and watch that now because I need to find. I want to see those.
Yeah, it just feels like in that one in particular, everybody's kind of touched up in a way.
Yeah,
it's almost it feels like a stylistic direction almost, because if the first movie was so, I don't know, I felt like the first one looks. I mean, it looks better. I just always enjoyed the first one. I mean, it still had a more low. Kind of a lo-fi look to it, like it wasn't quite as with the second movie it was letterbox, it was just sharper. I don't know, there's just a lot more like of cinematography in Age of Ultron.
Well, to segue, speaking of comic book movie titles that just kind of use a base concept of a big event from the comics, well, I guess this movie didn't really do it, but I believe all three of us have seen The Flash now.
Yes, I've seen it.
So I guess before we get into discussing it, quick, out of 10, what would you rate it? I'm gonna give my rating of let's say a 7 out of 10.
I'd probably go with 6. I'd probably go with 6. It fluctuates because it's like not a terrible movie, but not like wasn't outstanding either. So. Probably give it about a 6.
Story-wise, it was good. I have lots of issues.
I think the third act is what really knocked it down to a 6 for me.
Yeah,
like the end to the movie, like all that, it got to the point where I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, 4, 5 to me. Honestly, the movie after I got out of the movie, I
can get behind that. I mean, I'll keep my 7, but I can perfectly understand why someone would say that.
After I walked out the movie, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the DCEU to end. It's time to start fresh, and just because, as a comic book fan, you see what Marvel's doing, and you enjoy everything Marvel does.
Do we?
For the most part.
Like they have a good track record.
Yeah,
they're
they
pretty
have a
solid.
very good track record. When I watch the DC stuff, ever since Superman Returns, outside of the Dark Knight stuff, I've been just disappointed. And then when they said, okay, we're starting what possibly could be a universe of movies with Man of Steel, I wasn't happy coming out of Man of Steel. I've grown to appreciate it and like it over time, but it coming straight out of the theater, it was not what I wanted, not at all what I was hoping for, and each movie that I've gone to watch in the DCEU, I've always left feeling that way, with the exception of Wonder Woman and somewhat Aquaman. Shazam movies are good to me. I'm weird because everybody hates those, but they're good to me.
What about the Suicide Squad?
The first Suicide Squad. Yeah.
No, not Suicide Squad. The
Suicide Squad.
I thought the first one was okay, but I just didn't believe the villain. And I never, the end of the movie was always kind of just silly to me. I'm like, all of these people would get wiped out. Like everybody, it was just everybody would die. And the fact that they made it so easy, I don't know, it was kind of silly. The second Suicide Squad definitely was better of the two.
It's one of those things where, I put it up there with Peacemaker. Peacemaker's a great series. Suicide Squad was a good movie, but there's a caveat here. It's not something I can show my kids. And I want my kids to be able to enjoy what I enjoy. Right. And
I guess that's just the caveat of the concept itself, though, because just the concept itself of the Suicide Squad is a very adult concept.
Yeah, it is. And I'm hoping that James Gunn doesn't lean into that when he does Superman Legacy. But we'll talk about Superman Legacy in a little bit.
Yeah.
Flash.
I would say just on that though, on that note, I think I would trust a little bit more with I would give him some of the benefit of the doubt that he knows. I do. He knows how to switch gears on what needs to be serious and what needs to be, brevity.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy movies are perfect.
I was going to say
he's very much improved over the years, because if you watch each Guardian movie, you can see he has improved on storytelling in one aspect or another, like in how he writes each one. Like beats come better, jokes get less undercut, or serious moments get less undercut. They get, they're more allowed to breathe with each movie.
But he's still also able to keep his signature. That's what I like about James Gunn, is that with Guardians, it really had his signature throughout, and he brought his own style to it, but it wasn't in like remember me from Trauma and remember Slither and all that, like we're gonna gross you out. Like he reined it in. Now I will say the Suicide Squad was a more adult. It felt like a more adult watch, but I don't know the material. So like Ray said, it's probably just more adult. Yeah. Source material.
Batman here. Hey, Batman. It's nice to have you on the show, Batman.
Don't take whatever we say to heart. We're just,
He says DC jumped on the comic movie train, the competition, because people started to wonder why DC hasn't put out anything. I think that's kind of right. Man of Steel was a little too late.
I think I think it's more than just DC itself. I think it was a big Warner Brothers problem. Warner Brothers for years has been.
Let me qualify that by saying Warner Brothers.
Because let's if we want to do that, we'll jump back to 1978 when start with Superman with Christopher Reeve. That was a big hit. They made sequels until they fizzled out with the Quest for Peace and Superwoman, and then after that, Warner Brothers got scared to touch Superman again for a while, and they didn't touch him cinematically again until 2006. We got the only way we saw Superman was Lois and Clark.
I was going to say, wasn't the death and return of Superman sort of his rebirth? Like that was sort of the jump start to the Superman craze again.
In the 90s.
Right. Because the movies, like you said, the movies fizzled out. So the Superman character had kind of gone down for a while. And then they finally did. I felt like that comic, it was a multimedia series. So you had the comics, the novels, the children's storybooks, and the video games. I felt like the Superman kind of got that resurgence, and then the Lois and Clark show kind of solidified it and made it more pop culture again. I feel like, and also it rode off of the success of Batman. I felt like, because it was a Warner Brothers property, and people take Batman and Superman as synonymous, properties. So I could see, I could see how in the 90s he jumped back up.
Yeah, I mean, and same thing happened with Batman, and it kind of shows a pattern where, at least at the time, the new leadership we're still trying to figure out what the footing of the current leadership is going to be now when James Gunn gets started. But Warner Brothers as a whole was very reactionary. So the second a movie, there was a stumble, they backed away, and that was why it was so hard to get anything done, like in terms of making a comic book film for years. I mean, Marvel had that issue also as well because but it was a twofold reason. They'd sold their rights to multiple characters to multiple studios. Blade was sold to, Blade was owned by New Line Cinema, which is funnily a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. So Blade with New Line. We had Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider,
Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, X-Men.
Yeah. Well, there's that whole little group of different characters that 20th Century Fox bought. So that was like the Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, I think. Who else did they own at the time?
X-Men, right?
X-Men,
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, Sony.
My bad.
Sony,
Daredevil.
Daredevil. Did they own the Punisher? The Punisher was Lionsgate, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
Lionsgate was Punisher.
And Universal owned the Hulk and Submariner.
Yeah, and they just Marvel and Disney just got the Hulk back, I think, fully now, don't they?
There's some.
I think I heard that somewhere.
There's some debate on that, so I don't know. I saw that, and then there were some people saying no. They have the right to distribute the Universal movies.
Okay,
but I don't know what's real.
Yeah,
I don't.
Back to the
misinformation,
right?
Yeah.
Misinformation. Back to the Flash.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you I'll start and say when I walked out of that movie,
you were mad.
when I was watching it, like I said, it started out. I loved the beginning of the movie. I liked his intro little where he had to save the babies and all that from the burning building.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought that was great, even though it felt. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I felt like it was almost like there was nothing new. It was a retread of Quicksilver from like the X-Men movies. So in a way, it felt like we weren't breaking new ground, but I still had fun with it. I was just scared. I'm like, oh, I bet people are they're going to tear this apart. Like, oh, Quicksilver did it first, and then.
Well, I did like the joke that they had about his him dealing with energy levels of being such a high speed.
See, that was one thing I loved.
That was something they didn't really touch on with any like speedster like Quicksilver. They didn't really touch on
because he would always steal up. I mean, they would never talk about it, but he would always. You could see he was always eating and always like stealing stuff to eat and have on hand. But no, walking out of it, it was just like this. I had a doom feeling, because I really did want this movie to succeed. I wanted this movie. It felt like with Top Gun Maverick, they were holding that under the vest. I mean, they were like, "Look, this is a theatrical movie. An audience has to see this." So they held on to it, and I thought for sure it was going to come out and it was going to be like mediocre garbage. But it ended up being huge. It ended up being a blockbuster. So I thought for sure, everybody's ranting about the Flash, so it must be that good. And while I'm watching it, it's like the first half of the movie, I'm like, it's fun and getting into the Batman stuff. I'm like, great, my Batman's back. It just it felt like it started to slowly fall apart. And by the time we get to the Zod stuff and the actual showdown and all that, it just felt like nothing. It felt like nothing was going on. They had the one little sequence of the two Flashes doing their thing, and they really didn't do much. It was like I'm like, that's what y'all banked on? Was you all right, we're gonna use that song and we're gonna have this little sequence and he's done. All right, that's the Flash, guys. And then it just felt like, and then I totally, because I told Ray about this earlier. I was in preparation for this movie. I watched Man of Steel because I knew that they were going to touch on going back to that day again.
Yep.
I wanted to watch it, and again, I fell in love with Michael Shannon's performance. I love him as an actor. He was so great as Zod, and his emotions and stuff in that movie are so great. You
can tell he didn't
Let me
care.
tell you something. He took that paycheck this time and was just like, where do I stand?
Yeah, really.
Because it just felt like he was like, I'm going to have to do this. don't do that.
We could tell
He
that
just did.
we could tell that they were trying to hide the aging too by just keeping his mask on for the entire. You never
Even
you
the
never
woman-
saw Zod without the mask on.
I think the woman too that was with him was the same
Yeah.
woman, but
It
in the
was.
first few
Yeah, it was.
shots,
Yeah.
it didn't look like her, and
Yeah,
it kept having to cut to her, and then there was finally an angle where they showed her face, and it looked like they had digitally touched her up, but she still did not look like herself from the first movie. But anyway, I just felt like he phoned it in. I felt Michael Keaton was great. I felt like he took what he was given and he ran with it.
Mhm.
I enjoyed Ezra.
Yeah.
I thought Ezra did. Yeah, I thought
Ezra
with
did a
what
solid
there
job, yeah.
was, I thought Ezra did a solid job with
Like-
both versions. I loved it. I was confused with the Dark Flash stuff. I mean, it just I'm talking about as a casual audience member.
We can
That
get
started to
into
get
that if you
weird.
want to later. Like,
Good, we can. I was just saying that at first it was interesting because I liked the fact that when he broke into the Speed Force, he all of a sudden you saw that something else was going on. That was actually cool to me. I'm like, ooh, there's already an effect, and you see he's already unleashed the Dark Flash. So it's kind of a creep factor to me, and I can't wait to see where that goes. And I felt like they never really developed that, and they just kind of crammed it all in at the end to show you, oh, this is what's going to happen. And then it had a very, I don't know, I just felt like the ending, the true ending to the movie had such a simple wrap up. It was just like, I don't know. I just felt like the final act, that's it. The movie was running okay until the halfway point it started to stumble, and then the final act was just they crapped the bed, in my opinion. So when I walked out of that movie, I just felt like, wow, this isn't the blockbuster I felt like that they were expecting. It just didn't have, I don't know, it didn't have the wow factors that I thought that they were going to have. It really didn't hit beats that I'm like, they obviously must have a winner on their hands, because usually, you have these notes, you have responses, you have, all this stuff. I don't know what they thought they had here, because to me, this looked like a direct to HBO Max special. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
And I will say the biggest complaint I have to say about it, I see there are segments in there where I felt the CG was purposefully done. Like, okay, it looks a little shoddy or looks a little wonky, but I'm like, that's probably supposed to be. But it was just like all over the place. You would have beautiful shots. You would have ugly shots. You would have like most of the CG, when you would see people's faces that were supposed to be CG, it was like 2003, The Matrix Reloaded Burly Brawl CG. It was like, what happened? And then there were articles that came out where they said they had to, like, I think they had to give those jobs out to a lot of people. Like there was different people doing, and they were like, if you think it was done, if that shot was done in a week, it was done in a week.
yeah,
I mean,
I've seen those videos and stuff.
yeah, so I'm like, wow, y'all had a long time for post-production on this, and you couldn't take what you were given and then go, oh, ILM, like, can you touch this up? I don't know. It looked like there were 5 or 6 different CG departments, and they just turned in what they could on certain deadlines and said, I wash my hands of it. Like they probably never even watched them. They just went, here, boom. And it was odd. And I even caught that in the trailers. I thought that of all the stuff, just the Flash's outfit looked a little weird. I'm like, some of the CG shots of his suit looked very odd, like Green Lantern bad, And I'm not saying Green Lantern was bad. It's just for that time, that was kind of, top of the line, but it was still kind of weak sauce in certain points. But with this, there was just no excuse for those kind of points. I don't know. I try to be sympathetic. Like I said, I try to point out, well, that's probably where it's supposed to be bad, because they say, like in the Speed Force and stuff, some things should not look like they're supposed to look cartoony. But I'm like, no, dude, some of this just looks bad CG. Like it's just, and I'm not trying to beat anybody up. It's just like let's just be honest and transparent, Yeah. But me walking out of it, I felt like it just wasn't the blockbuster that they were expecting. So what did y'all think? I mean, walking out.
So
Just
I go next, or
be
do you want to go
fair-
next, Ashley?
You go next, Ray. You go.
Okay. I will start by. Wait, can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay,
I hear you
okay.
crystal clear.
I'll be very lean, or I'll be lean on what I have to say first, because I want to focus more on the story aspect of it. But
Yeah.
I'll be lean about the CG stuff. Yeah, well, shoddy for the most part. There were concepts in it that I really, really, really liked. I really liked the concept of how the time travel worked in this.
Yeah.
because I thought, when it first showed, or when I first heard about, they're going to do the Speed Force, they're going to do a different version of it. You have a big comparison already. You're going to be wondering how it's going to compare to, the Flash you've seen before, which, the CW TV Flash show, which is basically just amounts to him kind of running through a portal, and like blue all around him, kind of like going through hyperspace, and then he just pops back into another point in time, and you might see some pictures. So this whole cool idea of like a sand, like an hourglass of sand of time, it works like an hourglass, and you see like a coliseum of life events happening around you. I thought that was a really cool concept. Visually, I really liked how it looked. And then I guess getting to spoiler territory, the whole thing about, our glimpse into the multiverse. And yeah, that was a little over CGI'd, like certain little shots that we saw because they had to be, I guess. But
oh, you're talking about the reveal of all the different Earths,
spoilers,
and stuff like that, and
but
I didn't mind all that as much.
I didn't mind it, but also if you're gonna bank on showing these cameos, especially with the one, I thought, like, if you were gonna really bank on showing him, you really should have worked a little bit longer on it, or you should have paid someone a little bit better, a little bit more time to do it, like the Nicolas Cage.
Spoiler alert.
I said that before.
Yeah,
I did
we're
say
gonna
that
spoil
before.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I did say spoiler alert. But yeah, the Nicolas Cage cameo. It was
beautiful.
Cool.
I loved it.
Now the idea of it was great. I love the in joke of it because I had to explain it to my wife afterwards. Like, why the heck was he fighting a giant spider? And I was like, there's a whole story to that. and all revolves around.
You know what? Let me break out my DVD.
It all revolves around a strange little man named John Peters and his obsession with having Superman fight a giant spider in a Superman script. He made Kevin Smith write a Superman script adapting Superman Lives, and he had this caveat. I was like, you really need to put a giant spider fighting Spider-Man in it, or a giant spider fighting Superman in it.
Yeah.
And Kevin was like, okay, I'm writing a Spider-Man script. And then it did, and amounted to nothing because when Tim Burton, signed onto the project, he saw Smith's script and he's just like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. So it's just like a funny little in joke to
Ashley, I was going to say Ashley probably knows the story because John Peters went on afterwards, moved on to another movie and produced Wild Wild West, and doggone it, he got his spider in the movie. But even Kevin Smith admitted too, seeing that cameo, he's like, you know what, John Peters was right. That big spider would have been pretty awesome, and I agree. It looked pretty awesome. I was like, come on, Nicolas Cage, Superman fighting a spider. I was like, I gotta.
If it had been able to, if they'd been able to make him a little bit tighter somehow, like just a couple more weeks, another month of CG.
Dude, they had it. Dude, they had plenty of time, Ray. Like, don't be easy on them.
Well, it's not so much the time. It's not so much the time. I mean, it is the time, but it's like I've also heard another big thing is they don't pay the VFX companies enough for what they drop on them for the amount of VFX. Because they say like, a studio will come to you with a ton of stuff, and they'll say like, we have 2,000 shots. You need to get, these are all the things we need in these shots. And you have to get these done by X amount of time. And they've said like, some stuff will be very complex, could take months. Some stuff can be done in about a week. And some stuff is complex and has to be done in a week. And it's just, it's a weird VFX. It's strange when you kind of look at as a whole with what's going on in Hollywood.
It's like video game development.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing the little pockets of like people who are critically involved in this storytelling medium now. And you're seeing how undervalued and underappreciated they are. And we're actually really seeing it now, like the writing department again, they're having to go on strike again. In VFX, we're seeing the kind of abuse that they go through, just trying to do what they do, what they love to do. But they're doing it under conditions that just aren't good for people to do.
Right.
But off of that, because I did start to go off on a tangent about the CG. So besides that, story-wise, I liked this. It had good, solid, emotional beats. I just wish that there had been more. The set dressing around those emotional beats. I wish there had been more to them, or more care put into them. I guess would be what I think I'm getting at, because like I loved how it handled it differently than what we saw with Grant's Flash because they had to do it differently. Otherwise, people would just be pointing out, they're just retreading, those same beats. So I liked that, and I one of my favorite scenes was, and this was an Ezra scene, because he's seeing that this Ezra that he, or not Ezra, but this Barry from 2013, our Barry, the Barry we've been watching, we see, he makes these little, we see the past Barry kind of make these little comments about how it is dealing with mom. And you kind of see it every time he mentions it, you can kind of see the current Barry kind of like, I'm realizing that this guy has gotten to have his mom his whole life. He didn't lose her when he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then that moment when he finally snaps, when he says, you're being such mom, you're being just like mom right now. And he just snaps at him. And that was such a great moment, and also, and he has to dial it back because he realizes, oh, wait, I didn't tell him what happened. But it was, for all the, all the stuff going on right now, he did a solid job acting wise. That was a great performance.
Yeah, for sure. And I've never had a complaint about Ezra. I think you may have. I feel like you introduced me to them in some, maybe like the
first movie. No, I think you. Now, incidentally, because he wasn't a big part of the cast, or they weren't a big part of the cast. But one movie you introduced me to that I watched and I loved. I bought that movie afterwards because I loved it so much. Was City Island.
That's right.
They were in City Island.
That's right.
Ezra was the son of Andy Garcia's character.
That's right.
Fantastic little comedy. If you ever want to go watch a nice little light comedy about a family.
Wow, I was like, where did I first see Ezra? City Island. That's right.
I love City Island, but
yeah, I was going to say, ever since we've seen Ezra come up, and I've enjoyed everything they've done, and it just
Perks of Being a Wallflower,
right? And so
Kevin,
so the actual they did a good job in the movie. I mean, it wasn't that, like we're all talking about. It's mainly like the story, the effects, I don't know, just it just felt really.
It feels like that there was this, there's always the saying, too many cooks in the kitchen or something like that.
Yeah,
too many fingers in the pie.
Yeah,
it feels like there was so much outside interference. It feels like you can feel it in the movie as you're watching it sometimes.
I just wonder what made them think that what made them think they had a winning third act with the desert fight. It just felt so bland. They didn't, I don't know, did y'all feel that way with the final Kryptonian fights and stuff? It just felt bland. Like there was no real, I didn't feel there was a real conflict, and I didn't feel as much as it was all about the characters. Like, will Batman make it through it? Will Supergirl make it through? Now, I didn't make a comment about her. She was great. I like Supergirl. Now, I felt like they didn't give us enough of her.
Yeah, I was going to say, there wasn't really, I couldn't make a really big judgment on her because there wasn't much.
What she gave me, I thought was great. Enough to be, I'm like, I could watch more of her. She was good. But yeah, it felt like she was sort of blown over real quick. They didn't really focus on her as much as I thought they would.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of oddness.
So the story that they based it on, so it's based on Flashpoint. I can't remember if you've actually ever read Flashpoint. Have you, Austin?
I felt like maybe you had me read that, but maybe not.
So it was a big, it was like a 5-issue event, but it had a lot of outside comics kind of setting up the world around it. But it wasn't supposed to be the jumping off point that it became, because it was just supposed to be a story where Barry accidentally changes the timeline. Conflict happens, he goes back, and then everything goes back to the way it was. But I think Didio and Bob Harris jumped on that opportunity and kind of said, no, we're going to change this to make it our new, we're going to do our reboot that we've been talking about. I think is that correct, Ashley?
Yeah, the New 52 came out of.
Yeah, but I think but people like to say Jeff Johns caused the New 52 with Flash. Was there was more to it than just him writing the comic, because it was, if you look at it as a story, it's very easily, you can see that it was a story that was just going to go back to the things, the way things were, but the idea was, Flash, he goes back, he stops Eobard from murdering his mother, and when he suddenly wakes up, he has no memory of what happened. Or, well, the story starts out with him not remembering anything, and then the world's different, and then he remembers. But Bruce isn't Batman anymore. It's his father instead, because Bruce got killed as a kid, and Thomas Wayne became like a psychotic Batman that uses guns all the time. And Superman crashed into Metropolis instead of Kansas, and he got taken in. He got put underground by the government, and he became like a scrawny, sun-deprived Kryptonian.
Oh, okay.
So you can kind of see the basics of what they used. You can see the skeleton of what they used, but the third act doesn't really play out much like what happened at all.
It's nothing like that. Yeah,
because the third act was basically the world was coming apart with like the Atlantean
fighting the
Amazon civil war going on, and so you can see those influences, but you can see like a lot of people are coming in and say like because of all the outside stuff that was going on, which was like, well, we don't want Henry Cavill anymore at this point, so we're going to put Supergirl in it. So you can see that in there. Ben Affleck's done being Batman now, so we're going to put Michael Keaton in this, because people love the old, Michael Keaton Batman. So you can see these outside influences of people like picking in like little things like, we're going to do this because we want this for later on. We put this in there for what, for what we're going to do later on. So it's this weird mishmash of things that don't really end up.
And it was wrong decisions.
Yeah.
Wrong decisions. Everything they did.
Yeah. But the thing is, like I say, like the core emotional beats were for me the top part of the movie.
Yeah,
like
to me, that's what saved the movie, in my opinion.
The less CGI that was in a scene, the better the writing was normally.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite parts, I think I've said this to Austin, and I said this to another friend of ours when we were discussing the movie. One of my favorite scenes is Michael Keaton discussing with the two Barrys the concept of a multiverse and timeline shifting with pasta. I loved it.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
As a metaphor,
the fight scene before that, though, I felt like I could have cut in half, and
I did but I did love that they set that to what was it? Oh God, what's the name of the song? It's by Chicago. 65 or 11 to 9 or something like that.
No, it's.
You
had to ask me, man.
But it's a Chicago song.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I know that one, and that beat started.
Yeah, and I was like, because everybody mocks that. I mean, everybody copies that beat. That same riff. Mm-hmm. That same riff has been used in Give Me Some Lovin'. I think that same riff
Davis?
Spencer.
Yeah,
and they may have even used it first, and then this person might have.
That was
Chicago. I feel like everybody, because even Led Zeppelin took that riff. Like there's a song I think it's "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You," and they use that exact same riff. It's almost like an homage. Like bands do it as an homage, I guess, to the original composition. But anyways, there was a point I was going to make
but spaghetti stuff. What I was saying real quick was I loved how they went a different route for explaining a multiverse, shifting timelines, because all that we've really seen when it comes to Marvel and stuff, whenever they explain it, they use branches as their explanation. Is like it's one single timeline, branches, and I don't think they've really gotten a chance to do any kind of new thing since the multiverse kind of has exploded now for them. So I like this different concept that Michael Keaton's Batman was using was pasta not only shifts time, because one of the questions was, well, then why is Bruce older than the Bruce I know? So when he puts the two pastas together, shifts one, says well, that's because when you shifted, everything behind you also shifted. The time behind you shifted along with the time ahead of you. So I thought that was really cool. I was like, whoa. And then when he put all the wet spaghetti into the bowl, I was like, that is fantastic, because the idea of you'd have things that are vastly different, these pasta, these threads that are so different, but then you'll have the ones that are kind of similar with minor differences that run parallel because they're the strands that are kind of stuck together. So I thought that was a brilliant explanation of timelines, multiversal theories. I thought that was fantastic. That was one of my favorite little sequences in the whole movie, and it had no CGI in it at all.
One thing I will say, one note I had. If it was me on the sidelines, I would
Yeah.
probably be like, look, guys, this is one thing you're not doing with
Mhm.
Batman that you should be.
Mhm.
Because if you notice, even in the trailer, I was picking this up, but the Keaton Batman in particular
Mhm.
he's not very flattering in the sunlight. Like, he's very designed to be shadowy.
Here, I'll look it up while Lawson's looking this up.
Oh, if you leave me now, gotcha.
No, it's
yeah,
not. It's not
Yeah, I was just wondering what he was asking.
No,
But
yeah.
but I felt like I love the Keaton Batman design and all that. Everything's real. I mean, obviously, I have toys of them, and you see them in broad daylight. But the actual element of the character is supposed to exist in a lot of shadow and darkness.
Mhm.
So I felt like, as a cinematographer, I probably would have tried to with all of his shots, I would have tried to darken Batman a lot more instead of just making him so just crystal clear, like I mean, all the elements, like you basically just see every nook and cranny of his suit.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just felt like with Keaton, there should still be just some darker elements. So like maybe there's a little, like almost like half a shadow over one eye or something. It just felt like they kind of didn't consider that when they were doing his Batman. I would have done that. And also, they show you the Batmobile, and when he plays around a lot with the Batwing. But if you remember, I just felt like as a cool, like a rhyming beat would be, we had the Ben Affleck's Batman. His jet comes in and drops his bat pod out, and he gets to do his little cool scene, which I thought, coming up to the movie, I thought that was just such a retread, that the bat pod thing that they come up with.
Mhm.
I'm like, God, we've already seen that a million times. But I do like the idea that the wheels shift.
It was a fun sequence too. I love.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It just felt like I would have probably, as cool as that vehicle design was, I just felt like it was a retread. So I probably would have went back to the drawing board with a different vehicle. But what they should have done was, whenever they did maybe the first action sequence with Keaton and him using the Batwing, they should have utilized the Batmobile and had him drop the Batmobile out the back of that thing, like into a particular mission, and utilize the Batmobile once. You brought it back, have him, because I mean they're letting him do things that normally he couldn't do in the older movies. And he's I mean, obviously this dude's spry. He's jumping all over the place, and he's a martial arts master.
Mhm.
I mean, they were doing some really neat stuff with his Batarang. I'm like, I mean, God, we've got all this sandbox to play in. I would have had at least one sequence that lasted at least 2 minutes, giving me the Batmobile, like a cool little chase sequence, or him getting to use it to fight the bad guys to get into that base, or something.
Yeah, I think that's part of they probably wrote themselves into a little bit of a corner because they kept the big finale. They kept it so contained to that meeting that goes wrong between the Kryptonians and the army,
out in the desert.
Which is weird that they kept that as kind of the focal point of where everything goes to crap. But
yeah,
which is bizarre. Oh yeah, the song 25 or 6 to 4. That's the name of the Chicago song. One thing, one emotional beat that I thought was really good though was, speaking of the whole finale, the realization of what was going wrong when our Barry was noticing, he's like, we can't change this, and he's having that realization of what he did, and his mother and everything. That was I love the emotional escalation of that sequence. Like when you see younger Barry not able to handle that, because it kind of harkens back to what Bruce told him. What Bruce said. In his Ben Affleck's last scene of the film, he tells him, these scars make us. And you kind of see that parallel is that our Barry, he bore the weight of that loss already. So he kind of understood that, he understood losing them. They can't be changed. Meanwhile, the younger Barry, who didn't, he'd never dealt with that before, he couldn't handle it. So he kept going back and back. And then we see the evolution of that in the reveal that the Dark Flash was a future version of that Barry who couldn't stop. He couldn't stop trying to change that. He couldn't stop changing that point in time, which has nothing to do with the Flashpoint comic itself. That's nothing in the Flashpoint lore. Right. Dark Flashes are usually like specters, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But you know that would
this
but
was
that
its own creation, I think.
but you see what you're explaining there was to me was the meat and
They
potatoes
should
of
have
the final act.
They should have leaned into that heavier.
Dude, yeah, the Kryptonian fight could have been really. I mean, it could have been shortened. It could have been contained, and then let that be the final act where he discovers we can't change this. But then younger Flash is like out of control. He's like, I'm going to keep doing it. I wanted more of that. I wanted to focus on that part of the story, and it felt like they brushed over it like that.
Because
and
I was loving that, because the moment when they were both trapped in, or not trapped, but the moment they both went into the little Speed Force bubble again, and past Barry was like, nobody else is gonna die. He tells Barry, like, I know that you lost Mom in your timeline, and and he can't handle it. So then we see that sequence of him, like, he vanishes out of the bubble, tries to stop it, and every time Zod keeps killing Kara. Every time something different happens, he tries something different. No matter what, the end result is always Zod kills Kara. So I liked that, and I wish, like you said, I wish they'd leaned more into that. Not made it such a kind of. I don't know. It has those problems. Like
it was like a 5-minute sequence when that should have been that. It was like the battle. The battle could have been 5 minutes, and then gave me a 20 to 30-minute finale. Given, like, explaining, because to me that was the true ending to the movie, when we were having to now battle with that realization, but also deal with the fact that I have one guy that's not going to go. He's not going to accept that answer. And now I've created a monster. Like that was such an interesting concept that to just be a footnote, like it was a 5-minute thing at the end of the movie, made me so confused.
Speaking of footnotes, George Clooney.
See, listen, if we're talking about that, I will say, as an outsider and as a fan of the Joel Schumacher movies, like, I put them in their own category, and I know they're ridiculous, especially that one. I laughed. I love the fact that Clooney came back for that, because I'm like,
I saw it, and when it first happened, I was like, oh, they're doing this. I smiled at first, and I was like, oh, this is what this amounts to now.
Yeah, it's cute until you realize,
and when you look at when you read the behind the scenes stuff, I feel so much more cynical about it, because it does feel like it was more like flipping off. For me, maybe it wasn't the intent, but it felt like flipping off to everything before, saying like, time
to go to bed.
It's a choice. It's a choice that no one wants to do anything with. So and so when I saw that ending, it's like, you're already ending this timeline. Why didn't you just end it with the people who were there? Like, just bring Ben back and just show everything's kind of back to normal. You could have had something else kind of change slightly, like maybe have Patty Spivot look different, something more minor. I don't know, but that ending punchline irked me. The post credit scene, I know you kind of hated it, Austin, because you waited through the credits.
Well, no, it wasn't that I hated it. I was just mad that I waited for that, because I thought, I was confused by the original ending. I went, wait, George Clooney's Batman, and like, that's cute. I'm like, so are we going to get a true? Because I had heard that we were going to get a true send off or a wrap up of the franchise or whatever, of that timeline, and then it just ended with the bar room, like they coming out of the bar, and I'm like, what? It was cute, and it was hilarious. But I'm like, any other day I would have found this funny, but in this moment, I'm like, screw you guys! Like, what'd you do to me?
It would have felt better as a post credits if they had gone with one of the other endings that they had filmed before this one. If they had done the ending, because I think they'd filmed 2 or 3 different ones. Like, they did one where it was revealed Michael Keaton was still in this universe. Like,
I would have enjoyed that, because I heard because I heard him and Kara come back, right? Him and Kara, they come back at the end at the front.
Yeah. There was also another one filmed where I think it was Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot appear, and I think Sasha was there too, because I think her and I think Ben was there. I think it was just a kind of a way to wrap up that they were all back. Everything was kind of back to how it was, and then all of a sudden, DC did this whole, we filmed another one, a secret. No, it's just George Clooney. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like now that you're telling me that was like the big secret thing they filmed, it's silly. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said,
when your
funny
big
joke,
secret
but-
when your top secret ending is a joke, don't do that. Don't like it's like yeah.
But no, I just that kind of.
Ashley, tell us what you think.
Okay, so after hearing y'all talk,
he's been ramping it up.
yeah, here's my biggest issue. I got to talk about the CGI a little bit too.
Yeah,
the CGI in the parts that I wanted it to be good was bad. That was the multiverse parts where Barry's going in and seeing the different universes. That was really, really, really bad. Nicolas Cage was probably the best of those. Those CGI.
And it still wasn't amazing.
Yeah, and he still wasn't amazing, but it was probably the best of that.
Yeah.
The Christopher Reeve thing looked so awful.
It was that was the thing with him. It was like different angles. It would look terrible, good, terrible. It would be like terrible, terrible, good, terrible, terrible. It would...
I will say this though, in terms of the CGI, I think it actually worked in their favor when they did the Golden Age Flash and had it in black and white because it didn't look as bad.
Right.
I don't think, when they had it in black. What do you think?
It looked fine.
That was okay. That was okay.
I think the black and white helped hide the CG-ness of it though.
Yeah, but my thing is, there was funny parts to the movie. I laughed out loud several times. Ezra getting naked, his younger self or whatever.
Did you laugh at the? Well, did you laugh at the realization scene when Barry realized that the timeline was different? The big realization. There was a piece of information that was doled out, and he was like, "What?" Michael J. Fox.
Oh yeah, I love the Eric Stoltz joke the whole time.
Eric Stoltz, the star of Back to the Future, because that's a whole big in-joke for a time travel movie, which was, if you don't know, real quick, was originally, I think a big portion of Back to the Future was filmed. Eric Stoltz was Marty McFly, and then all of a sudden the studio was like, nope, we don't like him. Michael J. Fox got recast as Marty, and that's history.
And the bad thing is, how much of the general audience really knows that? My wife did not know that. She was she was lost. Like,
really? See, I had to explain that too. I was like,
I think it's a joke that works because it's something that I think it works fine though, because you don't need to know that because it serves the purpose it needs to serve, which was that there's something
different.
minor which people would know, which is Michael J. Fox. We all know Michael J. Fox was the star of Back to the Future. Most people know that with any general movie knowledge. So who's Eric Stoltz? So I think it's just a fun thing where it serves the purpose, but if someone's like, and then they find out there's a little basis of history there in film history, it's kind of a little extra fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Last Action Hero when Sly Stallone was the Terminator in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things I hated was Ben Affleck's nose in the cowl.
Dude, my wife, think about that. That was the intro to the movie. That was the opening of the movie. And I heard her, she went, ooh. and I even called it too. I started looking, there would be shots and I'm like, ooh, that's the worst CG I've ever seen. It was like they just took Ben Affleck's face and just crappily put it on, deep faked it on somebody, but just not even that good. It was, ooh.
Well, it fooled me because I thought that was really him. I just thought that whoever created the costume did a very bad job with the nose.
No, it was just bad CG. Because there would be shots that would be like, okay, it looked okay, and then there would be other shots where you're like, ooh, honey.
Especially when Wonder Woman pulls him up and they're standing there talking to each other, and his nose looks all, crumpled up.
I was too busy. I didn't really notice that part though. I was laughing at the joke that was happening, which was, I'm too proud to say thank you or something like that.
Well, when you go back and watch it on HBO Max, look at the nose. That's all I could see.
You assume I'm going to go back and watch that again because
nasty nose.
I don't really have an intention to watch that again anytime soon.
Then I saw Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne look way different than Ben Affleck from Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I mean,
a lot skinnier, a lot.
This if this was closer to how he looked when they did the reshoots of any of his scenes for the Zack Snyder cut.
Yes,
because I think he lost a lot of weight due to the rehab stuff and getting healthier again. Because I think by the time he was doing Justice League, he was kind of I think it was mainly during the Joss Whedon reshoots. He kind of lost the muscle and was becoming a lot more just bloated. So it wasn't as much muscle. It was he was just getting big.
Well, that all made me mad, and then
Yeah.
I guess I built this thing up in my head because you got Tom Cruise coming out, James Gunn coming out saying this is the best comic book movie ever.
Like
Which-
people were legitimately speaking up for it and thinking like
Which-
this is a good one.
Well, if you notice,
I mean-
a lot of these people that would say this stuff, I don't trust that a lot of them have. I get why James Gunn would say it. He has a reason why he has to say it.
Yep.
He has to play it up. But other people, I think it's favors, and also I think that they probably genuinely did enjoy it because there's no basis probably. And Tom Cruise, I think Tom Cruise probably just.
Well, he just wants people. He wants butts and seats. He wants the
Yeah.
theaters to come back.
Tom
And I'm
Cruise
the
is
same
Tom
way.
Cruise.
Well, I'm with him though. I want people to go back to the movies. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, but they've got. Here's the thing: if you're going to make movies, you got to make movies.
Yeah.
And and there's a lot of, I don't know if it's just the new crop of filmmakers or the crew and just people that are like I don't know if there's elements of filmmaking that they forget or they don't take into consideration or think is important. But I'm telling you, I know that movies have to be smart nowadays. I know that we have to kind of watch ourselves and not retread, and do all that kind of stuff. And we have to also not offend, and we have to, just try to be on our toes. But I feel like movies are movies. They're supposed to entertain you. If it's a theatrical movie, there's a purpose to it, to you going and spending your money to sit in a seat and watch it. You don't want to watch something that's just completely boring or doesn't utilize the medium that it's using. Like it should be. If you're going to put your movie in a theater, utilize it, man. Have a good format, have good sequences. Know that when it hits the theaters, you want to wow people with stuff. And I felt like in The Flash, it didn't even feel like some of the sequences were thought out to the point where they're like, people are going to be super entertained by this. Like really the only true sequence that was fun was the beginning of the movie was where we really saw the Flash be the Flash.
Yeah.
Because he had also was like, you got to see him, how his role was within the Justice League. Like he was sort of the janitor. Yeah, he was the janitor. And I'm like, I love that. I love that we got to see this perspective from his side, into the Justice League. And then, but it was also a big fun sequence. And I just felt like after that, the movie, it would have its great emotional beats and stuff like that. But there was a lot of times where it was just filling a blank. Like, okay, we have this sequence A here, this sequence here. And there was no thought put into it. Like the Batman stuff was the best stuff.
Well, like I said, with James Gunn coming out saying it's the best comic book movie, it's kind of got me questioning anything he really says now. Right.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I get it. You're the head of this thing and you're promoting it. But now you're kind of making me question what you're doing.
Trust you.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't have anything to do with those movies, I will say, like, I get it. He has to still be the cheerleader for the old guard, for the previous team.
Yeah.
And now that they're rolled out, now we're gonna see him put his right. Well, I was gonna say after we get through with these, we're finally gonna see him put his mouth put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
Like he's all right, now y'all got control. Can you make a successful DC franchise? Like, I mean, they, people can talk all they want to, but put up or shut up, man.
Yeah.
Well, him saying this, I guess it made me think I was going to get something that I didn't get. Right? Maybe my expectations were too high for it because he kind of built this up in my head. So I was thinking the whole time towards the end of the movie when the whole desert fight is taking place, Barry is gonna realizes he needs to go into the multiverse and get help.
Oh
right?
no. You're
Like,
I think your dreams were getting too lofty at that point.
yeah. Well, I mean, because I heard rumors Christopher Reeve's going to be in this. Okay. Oh, great.
You got it.
Like, I'm thinking he's going
Kind
to
of.
go out and get a Christopher Reeve, and this is going to be awesome. But then what? Okay, so I wasn't so. I was disappointed we didn't get that. But what I was disappointed was when we looked into that universe and saw that Christopher Reeve that didn't look like I was wanting deep fake Mark Hamill, young Mark Hamill out there, something that looks good. But this just looked
Rushed.
video game quality, and I'm like, that's not what I want there. I want to be like, ooh, cheering for seeing Christopher Reeve, but you're seeing a video game version of Christopher Reeve. You're seeing a video game version of Nicolas Cage, you're seeing a video game version of Adam West who's not even moving. It's just a still shot of him running.
Yeah.
You know, that disappointed me. The story overall was decent. I enjoyed the story.
Mm.
Everything sort of let me down along the way, though, with the look and the what could have been in my head. I'm like, you know what? They're doing that because they couldn't get this person. They're doing this because they couldn't get this person.
Yeah.
Right. Like they put Michael Keaton in there because they couldn't get Christian Bale.
Or they couldn't convince Ben Affleck to stay.
Well, that too. But
they started to plan heavily around keeping. When they first cast Michael Keaton, there was planned to we're going to keep him around for a bit. But now that all fell apart. So
and then it went to Christian Bale, and they were gung ho about getting him, and he just kept saying no, which was a good idea. What did you say? No.
I mean, I can't imagine his body can take much more like heavy fluctuations that he's done throughout his career.
Yeah.
God, the punishment he's put on his body is not good.
Dude, I'm surprised like body parts aren't falling off. Like he just points his finger and it comes off. He's like, oh.
Well, I mean, if you want a big example of like how unhealthy Christian Bale probably look, like his body inside, like how it can't be in the best shape or in long term. Look at two movies. Just look at how he looks in two movies: The Machinist and Vice. You got one where he's skeletal, like this, and then Vice. That wasn't a fat suit. He got himself really big to play Dick Cheney. So it's yeah.
Well, overall, like I say, I was disappointed.
Yeah,
I was disappointed. Decent story, just disappointed, like always with DCU movies. So I'm hoping that changes with what we're talking about next. And we're going to have to make this one fast. Is the casting for Superman Legacy.
David Cornsweet and Rachel
Brosnahan.
I don't know any of them.
So I don't know much about David Cornsweet, but I know Rachel Brosnahan because she is the star of an Amazon series, which I need to start because I've seen some scenes from it. It's fantastic from what I've seen. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And
that's that girl.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because she kind of always reminded me of Evan Rachel Wood a little bit, like in the face. That's a show I have always wanted to watch and have never gotten around to watching it. And I heard it's good.
It just finished its run. So it just finished. Basic premise is a Jewish wife in the 50s kind of starts her own career in comedy and kind of leaves her her conservative type husband, and starts a stand-up career, and Alex Bornstein is like her agent, I think, or manager. It looks like I need to start it. I
was wondering, I was like, I knew that girl looked familiar, but when they first said they were hiring people, I didn't see the names at first, and I saw the guy, I'm like, I don't know him, and I'm like, wait, did they just hire Evan Rachel Wood? And I'm like, no, wait, okay, it's a different girl. But it looks like good choices, in my opinion. I mean, they look cool.
I'm glad they didn't go for like a young 20-year-old or something like that. To
29.
29, but the thing is, they're probably not going to start filming till next year at the earliest because of all the writer strike stuff going on. Because I'm sure James probably wants to get more writing stuff done before that's when they're going to start filming.
Yeah,
I bet he's banking on that strike ending before then, because I'm sure he needs to touch the script up, and I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to touch it up on his own until that finishes, because I think he supports it.
I bet you he does. It just doesn't.
Oh yeah, he's a big writer. Yeah,
I bet you. I mean, because you got to think he's in charge of the studio now. Everything is riding on him.
Yeah.
I would think that he would probably in secret is probably still doing stuff to it.
Oh yeah, but true.
Yeah, but I just also announced today, Brendan Fraser is in talks to play Jonathan Kent.
Oh wow!
So the dad,
I could see that.
Yeah,
which was just like play 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon there, because Brendan Fraser played with another Superman in an unreleased series that still has not had any kind of release, but Brendan Fraser filmed like I think a pilot and maybe a season of a show with Tom Welling.
Oh, really?
A couple of years back, I think. If you look it up, I think you might even see Tom Welling talk about it, because he's talked about working with Brendan Fraser. But I think they filmed basically. I think they filmed the whole season. I think it's probably maybe like 10, 12 episodes. And I think it was gonna be sold to the CW, and it didn't. And that all that stuff fell through. So it's just this kind of series is kind of floating out in the air, waiting for someone to pick it up and air it. Or
Well, this has got me kind of worried about Superman Legacy.
Why?
That series failed. Batgirl failed.
No, I mean, but that no.
Brendan Fraser, you're ruining everything.
Listen, I love Brandon though. I could see him being Lex.
Brandon,
I could see him playing. I can see him playing Lex Luthor. Like,
I think they're going to go.
Role.
I think they're going to go for someone who's close to Corin Sweat's age. Probably not too close.
They said Nicholas Holt and the two brothers.
Oh yeah, the Skarsgård brothers.
Skarsgård, yeah.
No. Skarsgård. Skarsgård is Peter Sarsgaard, who died in the Batman with a bomb strapped to his chest that somehow didn't obliterate Rob Pattinson.
Really?
Yeah, Peter Sarsgaard, and then you got the Skarsgård.
That's right. You're right. He was in Green Lantern too.
Yeah. He was
he was a
big head man.
I forgot. He said big head man.
As someone who ate up Green Lantern lore for almost a decade, I've already forgotten Hector Hammond.
Yeah.
There we go. I remember.
God, this sucks.
But yeah, I like it. But I'm in a weird headspace now because growing up, I always looked up to like, oh, these older guys, guys older than me are playing, Superman. Dean Cain's playing Superman. Brendan Routh's playing Superman. Henry Cavill's playing Superman. It's the first time a Superman's been cast that's younger than me, and I'm thinking, man, I feel old now.
Yeah, it is. I'm like, I feel old.
I really.
God, they had to get that youngin'.
This guy had looked similar to Henry Cavill.
So to the point that people have gotten mad about it.
Yeah, I've seen the meme where it shows like a picture of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes and Henry Cavill, and then like toasted Great Value and David Koresh,
which is really mean. Like
toasted flakes, or
like. And I'll say this as someone who, in comparison with how you weren't the biggest fan of the DCEU.
Yeah,
I did enjoy it for the most part. Like I really loved a lot of. I loved Man of Steel. I enjoyed Batman v Superman. I was okay with Justice League, but I really loved the Zack Snyder cut. I'm not a fanatic about that stuff. I was really disappointed that Henry got kicked out. I'm not going to go online trying to like crucify people about it. So I'm rolling with it. I'm hopeful. I'm just I'm bummed that Henry didn't get a chance to really have closure with the role, but you just gotta roll with the hands you're dealt.
Well, let me say this: when I say I didn't like the DCEU, I don't like it. But if one of those movies comes on TV, I'm gonna sit down and watch it.
Oh yeah,
because I'm a DC fan. I'm a DC fan, so
I'm just kind of I was just saying as an example, like I really like these, but I'm not like you see the people who were just irrationally like it's like they're trying to keep themselves upset about it. Like I'm gonna stay mad about this. Like look at that new boy they cast. He looks terrible. It's like he looks like the other Superman. Like he's got the look. He's 2 inches taller or 3 inches taller.
I think
he's like
Cavill.
6'4". I think
4. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's gonna build out. I mean, he may not be like buff right now, but he's gonna build out. He's got plenty of time to put some weight on. So. All right. So, anybody got toy hauls for the week?
I do.
I actually don't.
Birthday.
Yeah.
First off, I'm going to start small with our sponsor, Bones Coffee. Indiana Jones. Not really a sponsor, but I can't wait to taste this and open it up. This is Crusader's Cup. It's not really a toy, but it's coffee, and I'm obsessed with coffee, so I'm going to have some of that probably tomorrow.
Sounds good.
2 movies real quick, or 1 movie. Do you hear music playing?
that was the toy showcase music.
I was about to say, like, what's going on? Someone's like planning a ritualistic murder. I got a special edition of John Wick 4 on 4K. I got this cover just because I love this artwork. It's just fantastic looking.
I have a comment about that though. I love that artwork. But I canceled my Amazon order of that on principle.
I get it. I mean, because the price.
Dude, $46.
I
46. Mine was $46.
didn't pay 46 for it.
Yeah, they charged me $46, and I had it
Yeah,
pre-ordered. I had it pre-ordered for ever since I told you. It was like whenever we first talked about it. Mine never went down. They charged me $46, so I returned it. I said, "This is not worth $46. This is a cardboard slipcover with a lenticular thing on." I'm like, "This is $29.96. I'm not paying $46 for this
Oh,
garbage."
yeah, I get it. I'm definitely not gonna argue.
But yes, I'm buying it. I'm going to buy it. I'm just going to go. I'm going to be butthurt about it. Go buy a regular copy. But I love that movie.
I got this today because I got some discounts through GameStop because of my birthday, and apparently I had so many points saved up that I had like $15 worth. So I got
Ooh.
Aliens: Dark Descent.
Oh, okay.
And this is the like role play or the strategy
real time
game?
strategy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
It apparently supposed to be kind of in the vein of like XCOM if you've played
Yeah.
the newer games. So I'm looking forward to that. And the big thing my wife got me, which is the tall neck Lego set.
Ooh, from Horizon.
From Horizon Zero Dawn.
I didn't even know that existed. They do those?
Yeah. Well, this is the only set they've made for it. It's like you can see
I was-
like because the bottom is part of their Lego ideas.
Oh, that is cool.
Collection.
Nice.
It's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, this was a nice little surprise. But like I said, I'm gonna have to. I think I said it to Ashley before we started the show. I'm gonna have to figure out space before I even open this up. Like I'm gonna figure out where I'm gonna set this up at before I even think about cracking it open.
Yeah, I don't know
But-
if you've played the games, Ashley, but that have you played the Horizon games at all?
Yeah. We played the first one.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I was gonna say that. Yeah, those because the tall necks were the first one, wasn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the
Yeah.
tall
So
necks.
majestic,
Mhm.
majestic little
Robot thingy.
map opener, map maker.
Is that
But
your
yes, that is I believe that's my haul.
All right, my haul consists of some older stuff, right?
Ooh.
Picked up this on the very cheap. Snake Eyes, movie figure.
Oh, is that little? What? Oh God, what's his name? Henry Goldstein.
Henry Goldman.
Oh, Goldstein.
Goldstein.
No. Okay, Goldman. So
my phone is sitting here typing everything I'm saying. I'm
Are you
glad I
terrified
didn't
yet?
text this. I'm glad I didn't text this person. That'd be awful. Okay. But yeah, I got him for cheap. I think at Ollie's $4.99. So Ollie's has all the Snake Eyes movie figures right now.
I was gonna say sometimes you can find some good deals at Ollie's.
Yep. And then I got one of the Crimson Twins there. I think this is Zaymont or Tomax. Zaymont. So he came in the mail the other day. Oh, as well as I don't have them with me. Some stands. I needed stands for some of my figures, and I got some stands. But other than that, that's it. That's my haul.
that's a nice haul.
All right.
All right.
We ran over. I'm sorry, people. We ran over, but we had a lot to talk about with the Flash.
We had a lot to unpack.
We were so angry about the Flash.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a more like. It's not so much hatred. It's just like, huh.
Yeah.
It's one of those where you it's like where you just put one hand on your knee. You're just like, I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We're
Interesting
going to get
follow-up.
through this.
Interesting follow up. It almost feels like it's a consolation prize for probably the trouble production that he had to go through with it. Yeah, Andy Muschietti is going to be the next official director of a DCU project because he has been announced as the director of The Brave and Bold, which is the next is Batman and Damian Wayne.
Yep.
Which is interesting because we're going to
We'll
have to
see.
get a new Batman. I guess we'll find out who it is.
We'll
before-
see. We might find out sooner rather than later because rumors are that one of them might show up in Superman for a cameo.
I did hear something about the Authority might pop up in Superman Legacy
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
So
We'll see.
we will see.
All right, folks, that's it for this episode. We will see you next week with our Outer Rim News Show. Talk all about Star Wars.
The Star Wars.
Star Wars and
From
bratwurst.
Chicago.
Yep.
The Bears. There we
The
go.
Bears.
It's like cigar.
Ciao, bears. Laters.
Bye, guys.
Later.
That toy life. To catch these ghosts, you need the real Ghostbusters.
Nice landing, Han Solo.
Spaceships and Luke Skywalker sold separately. Batteries not included.